You can just start off by introducing yourself, what agency or department you work for, and then start.
Okay,
Look
my,
this way.
all right. Yeah, my name is Chimwemwe Jonas. I'm working with the Environmental Affairs Department for Malawi. I'm an environmental inspector, and Environmental Affairs Department coordinates the National Adaptation Plan for Malawi, and I'm part of the team that is working on the NAP within the department.
Okay, perfect. Now we can. And how would you say? What does adaptation mean to you?
Yeah, basically, when we look at adaptation, it's just a matter of how we are managing the impacts that we're facing due to climate change. You know, there's climate change now, and there are a lot of effects that we're experiencing in terms of dry spells, flooding, urban flooding, and so many other things.
Okay.
So the interventions that we put in place to ensure that we limit the impacts, then to me that's adaptation.
Okay. And in terms of resilience, what would be the difference between resilience and adaptation?
Yeah, I think resilience now is a full package in terms of how we recover as a system. So basically, when we adapt, it's not enough, but then we should be able to recover as a system to come back to our original state. Yeah, so basically, that's resilience.
Okay. Now more into the more interesting questions. Have you started the NAP process? Or is
Yes,
it-
we have.
You have.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe you can speak briefly about where you are in the NAP process, and what are your main achievements in the NAP.
All right. Basically, for us, we initiated our NAP process in 2014. That's when we launched it, and we haven't done much, but we're still in the first block, and we've done a roadmap which is outlining in terms of milestones what we want to achieve in our NAP process.
Okay, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and the second thing that we've done is a stock taking report. So we've done a report to try and identify the gaps that we have in terms of adaptation. So that as we move on with the NAP process, as we do our planning, we should be able to know what are the gaps that we are supposed to address. So we have that report, which was done in 2015. Yeah, so basically that's where we are. But we also have a NAP framework just outlining the scenario of Malawi in terms of adaptation and its effects and how we intend to move forward and what is the vision in terms of our NAP and how best to move forward. So we have like these three key documents now. But basically it's in terms of laying foundation, so we are in block A.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about the challenges you faced in developing the NAP.
Yeah, in developing the NAP, the first change that we had was in terms of capacity. You know, we started in 2014, and it was just the time when the leg group has just came up with the guidelines of how do we do the NAP. So we needed training so that we are well conversant with the NAP. But then we addressed this issue because we attended several trainings, and at national level we also downscale this training to other stakeholders so that everyone knows what's the difference between the NAP and the NAPA, because people could confuse the two. But then the most challenge that we've had was in terms of financial support. Like I said, we're still in block A, so we had a challenge in terms of how do we get resources to support our NAP. So we had some sort of a break, like from 2016 up to now, we did not move because we did not have any financial support. So as a country, we sat down to say how do we move forward. So we put together a proposal to the Green Climate Fund, and for us to do a readiness program in terms of NAP. And I'm happy to report that we just got the grant to the tune of 2.8 million US dollars to advance our NAP from the Green Climate Fund. So now we are geared to move forward.
Okay, you kind of basically answered my question, but now, as you know, we are reaching 2020, and the leg is advocating that all NAPs should be done by 2020. So, in your view, and the majority, and it's quite certain that no country is going to have a NAP completely implemented by this time. So, what, in your view, are really the problems, and why are we not going as fast as we should? Because initially, everyone thought that the NAP would be done, and we are still in the same kind of problem: capacity, lack of finance, and it's already 2020, and countries are still quite far behind. So, in your view, why do you think this is the issue?
Yeah, I think basically it's because the NAP is a process. We're looking into the medium and long term, so there are a lot of things that goes in there. And in terms of countries, there are different national circumstances. You need to have political will. You need to have a policy framework set up. And like in our case, we were still trying to have enabling framework. So like our national climate change management policy was just launched in 2016 when the NAP had already started. So basically, we did not have a well defined enabling framework to support this. But now, because we have this, we even also have a national resilience strategy now, so there's a lot of backing. So we are thinking, even for us, in terms of formulation of the NAP, by 2020 we should have maybe done 80% or maybe more than that. But maybe in terms of implementation, then we're still gonna have a gap because we can't say we will have implemented just in the remaining of the months. But I think basically that is that in terms of most of the least developed countries. There was a lot of gaps in terms of enabling framework to support adaptation.
Okay, because you mentioned an enabling environment, and that's one of the key elements in developing an app. Would you say developing a climate rationale? This is the terminology the GCF uses quite a lot, as well as the additionality. Did you struggle in terms of developing a climate rationale and having a strong climate evidence-based approach towards UNAP?
Yeah, we struggled a bit, but then I think the key issue is how we relate with other sectors and the other players in terms of climate change management. Because to have a climate rationale, you need historical data to support the evidence that you have to say climate has changed and we need to adapt. So now that as a ministry we work together with other players, we have a position paper for us to support our claim to say we need to have interventions in climate change adaptation, and there's support now even from the cabinet and the higher level government. So basically now we can say we have that climate rationale, but then when we were just starting, people were still, skeptical to say, is really climate change there? I mean, is this a priority? But now for us, even in our Malawi Growth Development Strategy, which is the National Development Agenda, we have prioritized climate change as a priority number one, actually, which has prioritized agriculture and climate change management. So we can see that even the government, as we operate, we are already prioritizing issues of climate change management.
Okay. So
Sure.
going off on what you said, would you say awareness raising is quite high now? People are aware of the issues, and they are. It's easy, like you said, it's easier to coordinate adaptation and mainstreaming adaptation into the different sectors. Or are there still challenges, primarily between the subnational and the national level? How did you manage to integrate the national into the subnational?
Yeah, I would say there's improvement, but I can't say it's complete in terms of awareness. There's still work to be done, but through several projects, we've tried to start and integrating climate change issues into our development planning processes. So what we are doing is now to trickle down into the district level. So we are integrating climate change issues in the district development plans, so that even at the district level, people, as they are planning, as they are doing their projects, they should already consider climate change implications in their planning, in their developments, and what have you. So basically, we are moving, but we still have a long way to go. But I can say there's a tremendous improvement if you compare with where we were in 2014, for example.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. And as a final question, maybe you could share some lessons learned and some best practices, something that you are proud of and you think you've learned along the way that you could pass on to other countries that are developing their NAPs?
Yeah, I think for me, the key issue is in terms of coordination. Coordination is very important. You need to have coordination structures in place. For us in Malawi, what has worked quite good is the presence of a national steering committee on climate change, which looks at the policy direction, and also a national steering committee, which looks at the technical aspects in terms of any climate change issue in the country. So any issue that we have in terms of climate change is addressed at that level, and then it receives that policy support and policy backup. So I think to me that is very key if we are to advance our NAP. And also another thing is in terms of how we relate with other players. Climate change is really cross-cutting and it's much sectoral. So we need to work together. For instance, working with the Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Health, Minister of Transport, they should all know what role they are supposed to play in terms of medium and long-term climate change adaptation planning. So I think that network is also really key in terms of having a very good NAP. And another thing is in terms of information sharing. Yeah, there has to be that network. People should be able to have that information. People should be able to understand what we mean by climate adaptation and what it means. And finally, having good climate change trends and projections, which we are benefiting from our meteorological department getting results from modeling, which is doing projections up to 2100. So basically, for us to make an informed decision, it becomes easy in terms of how we advance the NAP and what kind of interventions we should be doing.
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to ask you two more questions if you don't mind. I know it's busy.
Yeah.
One last one. Do you mind? Is it okay?
Yeah, it's all right.
I'll do that quickly. They're both very similar. So the first one is because, well, the leg is always talking about the NDCs.
Yes.
And so my question to you is how do you see the relationship between your NAP and your NDC?
Like I said, for us, the NAP, we are not really in the advanced stages, but for the NDC, we submitted and we have a time frame of 2015 to 2040. So when we look at the NDC, 2015 2040, we want even our NAP, as we look at our interventions, they should be talking to the NDC, so that even when we're implementing the NAP, we are also implementing our NDC in a way. So as we are working towards advancing our NAP, our NDC is going to be a key instrument that we are also going to use, because we want these things to go together, because we've already pledged to the UNFCCC to say this is what we want to do as a country. So basically, even the NAP should be also talking to our NDC.
Okay, perfect. And the last final question, I think you answered it, but I just need it to be reiterated, because this is kind of the main theme of our workshop and the workshops we have delivered before that. For us, it's very important for countries to see the NAP as a strategic instrument. So maybe you could just quickly, briefly discuss how is your NAP used or will be used as a strategic instrument for furthering adaptation planning and implementing a kind of pipeline of projects that will be financed through external funds like GCF or other funds.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to have our NAP completed, and then we don't want it to be just a document that's on the shelf. But it has to inform us in terms of how do we move forward as we plan for projects or programs in the long term. So basically, it's going to be that instrument which sectors should be able to use to say, okay, in terms of transport, how do we ensure that we build roads that would be resilient or that would be able to last maybe in the next 100 years. So the NAP will be a guiding tool for all sectors, be it health, be it agriculture. What kind of crops are we supposed to be growing? What kind of animals are we supposed to be rearing? So basically, it's going to be that instrument that will be guiding us in terms of what long-term interventions we should be doing. So it's very strategic for us, and we're looking forward to have it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for this interview. It was very, very thoughtful and important. Cheers.
You're welcome.